No, I need to. Absolutely.
There's a small slip.
No, that's high density.
Maybe a minimum.
Yep, it is.
Like, this is right up to. See what we're looking at here.
Here's a little. Right here is where you're at. Put us in one form, that's this guy.
Yeah. Well, if you want to address it differently.
Six, seven. It used to be 5, now it's expanded.
Yeah, what's this here? That's industrial, what's this here? That's all. What's this?
Down through here, right here. Yeah, that is what it's.
District. Oh, yeah. Yeah.
Right, it's just a state.
I never even. I thought that was all.
He's at the vet. He's not home.
I wasn't sure if there was.
I should probably turn on the
I'm not sitting at one little league.
I wasn't sure if we were supposed to call before.
We were, but he just called.
Okay.
Don't want to keep it outside, chill, get out.
Yeah, he'll be here. He's just running behind. We're gonna put him on the phone when he calls in. I think we're gonna start before he gets here. All right, ready?
Ready.
Call the meeting to order. We'll start with the pledge to the flag.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
So the sign-in sheet, Mr. Hummel, we're gonna talk about the burn ban here in just a little bit if you have a little time. Approval of the minutes from November 13th.
I looked over, I thought they were all,
Likewise.
I'll make a motion to approve. I'll second.
All in favor? Aye. SEO report. Questions on that?
Jumped over the code enforcement.
Oh, yeah. We'll get back to that.
But we gotta approve this.
Yep.
Oh, let's go. Yeah, this.
Make a motion to approve the report.
I'll second.
All in favor? Okay, sorry, code enforcement.
We issued 7 building permits for the period with a total construction value of $370,679. There were 3 residential permits and 4 non-residential permits. 31 building inspections performed and just a couple property maintenance issues. I received a complaint concerning 604 Crisscross Road that they're bringing some stone in. I've been waiting for them to provide me with a stormwater plan so we can approve what they've been doing there. So I reached out to him since this complaint. I haven't heard back from him yet. I will get by there probably tomorrow or Wednesday to see exactly what it is they have been doing. I had a call on Hewitt Road about possible subdivision there. There's somebody trying to sell some lots. That'll be a little bit confusing. 330 Mine Road, he supposedly has a building ordered that, from what I saw off his contract, it was supposed to be delivered beginning of December. I haven't heard that it has been delivered. I haven't gotten a building permit application yet, so stay tuned on that one. 569 Park Road, we've been having issues with those guys, but they have finally submitted an application for an electrical permit, which we can do, and then we can close that property out. And then there was one other one. We received a call, somebody actually came in the office from Lake Road. They had been to, I believe, the Pennsylvania State Game Commission. They got a permit from the Game Commission to have a hybrid wolf on the property. And they need to have a letter written from the zoning officer that this is permitted and that we're okay with it. And I didn't feel comfortable writing that letter. And I talked to Chris Hartman, and Chris said he knows of a case where one of these hybrid wolves had killed a child. And he just heard about it recently. And I think we should address it when Chris gets here, but I feel very uncomfortable about writing this letter to these people to have this animal on the property. They must have the property fenced in pretty well. I don't know if they had one there years before, but I don't know if it's something that I can actually feel comfortable that I'm protecting the township and saying that this animal is okay to have on your property. They tell me that there's a number of these animals over at that wolf sanctuary outside Lidditz. But I think it's a pretty good wild animal. So I don't know if it's something that the board will have a position on or not. Jen, you spoke to her, and I don't know if I'm missing anything with it.
All I know is they actually volunteer at the rescue that has the animals there. They're not puppies, they're grown. And I think think, a 6 or 8 foot fence in their property already.
Okay,
So the actual fence is high enough that they can't jump over it. I know that they went for their permit to actually, like the game commission, but they said they needed our approval for that.
yeah.
That's pretty much all I know.
So I think that's something that, not to throw the responsibility on you guys, but I think we need to have a serious conversation about that. Is that something that we feel comfortable condoning to have that animal in the
What
town?
exactly is a hybrid?
I guess it's a breed of a wolf and some type of dog.
I saw it online. I heard it from Jeff, and they'll take German Shepherds, Huskies. I think there's like 1 or 2 other. Those, I guess, are the typical ones that they'll breed them with, but it's wolf and one of those.
Yeah, I don't know enough about it too.
So I think, we just get Chris's input again. I think that would be valuable when he gets here.
Do they have a permit already from the game commission, or they're waiting for our?
They won't issue the actual permit from them until they get our approval for it.
Okay.
Because she had stopped into the office again after she had asked about it and asked him. And I said, we're having a meeting, we'll discuss it at that time. She said, because everything is on hold until we would give them a decision.
Yeah, I think that's something we defer to Chris, or just at least get his input.
That's pretty much all I have.
The police report, the officer's not here. The motion to approve the police agreement, we'll just wait on Chris for that too, because it was reported revised. We'll make sure that's okay. Virginville Fire Company report. Is anybody here from the fire company from Virginville? I did talk to the president of the fire company today. They had some change of personnel here recently and have some new people there. And if there are some concerns or people want to know a little bit more about the fire company, they meet every Tuesday, the second Tuesday of the month at 6:30. They urge people to go over there and ask the questions directly. We've had some questions about the change of personnel. I know Mark Richards was there for a while, and he just has some personal stuff going on that he stepped away, and they have a younger fire chief, but I did question today, and if anybody has questions, they can go over there. They meet the second Tuesday of the month. So they welcome any public questions or comments. Walnut Town Fire Company. Anything to add, Jeff?
Yep, all good, quiet lately. Guess I should have said that.
That's good. Motion to approve the meeting dates for 2024.
Just curious, is there any that aren't on the regular schedule? Did you shift any of them?
No.
Okay.
Is there, Jen? It's all the
Doesn't look like.
all the second
They're all the
Monday?
second Monday. The only thing I had a question about was Columbus Day and Veterans Day. If you guys have no problems with that, it's the second Monday of every month.
Except the reorganizational meeting is the
Correct.
Tuesday, January 2nd.
Just curious.
No, I'm all good. I'm good.
You good?
I'll make a motion to approve.
All in favor? Aye. Motion to approve resolution 2023-16, increasing the quarterly EDU charge from $220 to $222 for 2024. Any questions on that?
So that's pretty much, that's all you need to. I'll make a motion to approve.
Second. All in favor? Aye. Okay. Discussion on PAMS, updated delinquent cost schedule. Is there much change to this, Jen, from the one?
The old one is on the top, the new one is on the second page.
Yes. Are you ready? Yeah. Chris is gonna be on speakerphone here. I don't see, it's just some, I don't see anything big change other than some rate increase, and this is all people that are doing.
Right, that's right.
That's not as big as the regular bills.
Make a motion that we approve. I'll second.
All in favor? Approval of the tax collector sitting dates, April and August. There's 6 in April and 6 in August. She'll be here from 5:45 to 7. I don't see any issues with any of those dates. I make the motion we approve. All in favor?
Aye.
Motion to approve a letter of intent for the DCED. So this is the letter of intent, the DCED will do a survey, to peer-to-peer with the municipalities and assisting with the local government and the fire companies, reviewing what equipment and what they have as matched to the municipality's needs. It's a voluntary study. They'll help us. There's no cost at all. We talked about this last month just to go over it. They'll send out a questionnaire to the fire companies. I talked to both fire companies today, and they were willing to assist. So I make a motion that we approve this letter of intent.
Also,
All in favor? Aye. Let's skip the joint comprehensive plan until Chris gets here. A motion to approve the Fool's Run for April 6th. They do this every year. It's consistent with what they request, and they hold us they give us insurance and hold us harmless. We've not had an issue in the past.
it looks like, yeah, it looks identical to what they were doing in the past.
$2 million insurance.
I believe this is the same thing we've had before, so
I make a motion to approve.
I'll second it.
All in favor? It's April 6th. Chief, do you want to just go over here? We'll jump to you.
Sure. Yeah, I don't have a whole lot for November, so that's good. Activity recap for Richmond, 2,560 miles, 240 patrol miles per hours. They had 139 incidents for a total of about 70 hours, 22 crash investigations. We issued 17 traffic citations, 3 non-traffic citations. We did 41 traffic stops, 28 hours of follow-up and criminal investigation time, and 5 hours of court time. A couple of domestics, nothing that turned into anything major. Harassment and fraud, again, nothing major. And really the other thing I have is we purchased 2 more ballistic shields and they've been placed into service. That's it. So,
Okay.
November wasn't a bad month for any of us, so it all turned out pretty good.
I seen it was a short recap, which is always good. Sometimes it's 2 pages.
Yeah.
So,
Good month.
all right, thank you.
If anybody have any questions?
Anybody?
Okay.
Thank you.
Did you see the letter from Burke's crime report? How they did their funding?
I did did speak to Chris over at Fleetwood. They actually, last year was the first year that they donated $500. I spoke to a few other municipalities and no one else has contributed except for Fleetwood. And that was just the $500 since last year.
I'm not sure we need to do that this year. But it's up to you guys.
I wouldn't have a problem.
Yeah.
I mean,
Both make them.
make a proposal. I would be okay with $500. Yes. I think it was really positive.
If it's effective.
I'll make a motion.
I'll second. All in favor? Aye.
Okay, engineers report.
Okay, the first thing on there is the fall road work. We have the extra money in the budget. We looked at adding was it Mill? Mole is the So we-
Hopefully did.
we did Mole, and then we had the second road that while they were out there, Robbie talked to them. So the original contract was $74,475. The additional work they did, that had a total of $18,232.78. So the total invoice was for $92,633.53. That's what the request is in front of you tonight. I don't know if as far as the work goes and the extensivity of the work, Robbie and the guys were out there for really the bulk of the work. So I let him speak to that one and if there's any questions on anything. But that's where we are on the invoice.
Any issues, Robbie, out there?
No, I think everything went really well.
Yeah, I thought it was good. It's good. Yeah, I thought it was good. Yeah.
Yeah, I actually pretty good too. Better work. In my experience.
It's going to be okay. So I'll make a motion, we approve the payment for the fall street work.
I'll second.
All in favor?
Solar farm, on my end, I really don't have an update on that one. They did some work we had to walk through just to stabilize the site in accordance to what the conservation district was looking for and some other aspects of it that we were asking for as well. But they're holding off on that site work until spring. They did wrap up some of their general permits for the panels and the infrastructure they put in already. But it's, again, everything's pretty much on hold, unless you have anything to add to that one, Jeff.
We've closed out, I think, all the building permits, just not the zoning permit.
Yeah. So the overall zoning permit's still gonna stay there until the site improvements are complete.
Did we see any stormwater issues, Robbie?
What's that?
Did we see any stormwater issues after this last rain?
I didn't get a chance to make it over there.
Okay, but I mean, you didn't get called.
No, I didn't get any calls on it, no. Didn't look like it was blowing over when I went by this morning. It had a regular pond in there like it's supposed to.
Yeah.
Nothing out of the ordinary.
What, when you say hold off this spring, do they have a certain date before they can go in and start?
We haven't really come out and given a date. It's usually just when's the weather starting to turn. April's what everybody said, let's talk again at that point.
I think April 15th would be.
Yeah,
Okay.
it's about typically what we're looking at.
But what we think and they think might not be the same. So I just want to make sure we're on the same page.
Yeah. I'm sure they'll be eager once the first warm day breaks through, but, yeah,
Hey, you got a warm, dry spring, that's But, it'd be April 1st.
Can I just make a comment?
Yeah.
Last meeting, I think it was brought up that, everything was taken care of on my end. And it hasn't been. And I've never heard from anybody. I haven't heard from Heelstone since May, and I haven't heard from DEPCON since July. So just bringing you guys up to speed. Whatever you guys are hearing out there, as I told you before. Jeff, I think you were out soon after I ceded my side because it was in violation.
Right.
And my wife took you for a gator ride.
Yeah.
And you seen what it was like and how rough it was and how it wasn't fixed.
Correct.
Hasn't been addressed. Nobody has approached me from anywhere to get it in compliance, get it to where it needs to be, how it was. And I think you and my wife had that conversation. So I'm waiting.
Honestly, Ron, I've talked to everyone over there and they just keep telling me they call you and they're not hearing back.
I've told you
And-
since February.
Ron, I can't coordinate that stuff. I can try to get you guys to talk and that kind of thing, and
I have a cell phone.
I called you and I didn't get a call back either.
You called my cell phone
It was right before the wedding you had.
and I talked to you.
You said, I'll
I
give
said,
you a call
oh, yeah,
back.
after the wedding.
I know.
But it's not with you, it's with Heelstone. It's with, you guys have told me you've done all that you're gonna do.
No, I thought you said you went out there and you fixed the property
I
and you were
fixed
looking
the
for,
bare dirt to get it under grass so I could get my fence seated. That's not everything else that was being supposedly put back into place. Jeff was out, he rode with my wife, did you not?
I did, it's very rough. All I can try and do is we can try and coordinate a meeting between you and, I guess, DEPCON.
they'll be,
I'm
yeah,
fine.
they
I'm
have,
okay
they
with
have,
it.
the guy's name is Bo. He's kind of the point of contact that will be there from now until who knows when for the property. He has been super responsive ever since he's gotten on. If we need to walk it, go through it, that's fine. My impression was after we talked and you had gone on the property, there was restoration done.
We
And it was
stabilized
before
it
they got
because
in there and
there was bare dirt for months. There was topsoil piles in the floodplain zone. There was no seeding done. There was no nothing. It's on my property. I feel as though I'm in violation. I waited and waited and waited, so I did it, okay? We discussed that. I did it, okay? But it is not finished.
so
Well, I was under the same impression that it was done, Ron. When you were here the last time, you were just looking for some sort of payment. But if that's not the case, then we gotta get it set up with a meeting, and that's, I was under the
It
same
needs to be
impression.
rolled or more topsoil put down along the edges. It's
I'll-
nothing that can't be done till spring or whatnot, but I'm just letting you know, it's not finished,
Okay,
okay?
We can
I'll be
coordinate.
happy to coordinate it.
There's someone on the site there daily.
He'll come up whenever we have something. He's basically the point of contact responsible. I should get you that contact info. It was when we had that last walkthrough on their site. It was the first I had met him. But
Do
he
me a
said,
favor, let's get together.
Yeah.
Get together with your guy there and with Ron. We'll walk this thing down.
Yep.
Let's put it to bed once and forever.
let's set up a meeting with Ron, Bo, and one of us.
yeah, and there's gonna be a point of, we're looking for a general, just like you are, but if there's anything beyond that you have an agreement with them, I mean, I don't wanna,
It's been a disaster. I have not gotten anywhere with them or Med-Ed. Med-Ed is fighting with Heelstone. Heelstone was fighting with Med-Ed. Med-Ed's guy was out and walked all the disturbance that has been done, and he's written up what they feel I am owed, and Heelstone has said no. So I'm waiting back from Med-Ed yet, because Med-Ed said this is wrong. We don't treat people like this. So I'm supposedly possibly hoping to have a meeting next week with Med-Ed.
I think us getting involved too will help convince Heelstone to do
Yeah, like we
everything
said
they need.
before, our only leverage is not giving them the operating permit, but if it's not finished,
Yeah,
like I thought it was finished, then we'll set up a meeting, Jeff. Let's all get out there and let's put this thing to bed and make them commit.
Rode the property, That was prior to you doing any restoration work.
I think I had seeded it, but it wasn't up.
I don't know if you had done any of it at that time,
I think there was some seeding done.
But either way,
but
it's not finished. Just wanted to bring that to your attention. It's not the way it was.
okay.
So just so we're all back on board.
Yep.
I didn't make the last meeting, but I wanted to just clarify. It is not done. Med Ed is very disappointed with Heelstone. They have nothing, the people I talk to don't have nothing good to talk about. It's been a disaster. They are embarrassed.
So what kind of, what do they have to do with it though, as far as, do they have any leverage or do they,
Well-
what can they bring?
So
I'm just trying to understand what MedEd can do.
So I've said the same thing, and they're going back now to the guy in charge for Med Ed for the project, saying, look, we hold the switch,
Oh,
just like you hold the zoning permit. As long as you guys continue to
Right.
tell me the truth that you're holding that zoning permit, we have leverage.
Yeah.
They have got to come to the table and make this right for everybody. But
but that's our only leverage.
I understand, that's our only leverage until it goes further, and
Right.
to answer your question about the stormwater, I took pictures last night of the stormwater. I can't wrap my head around this project. After being a supervisor for 6 years, and I thought I learned a lot of things, and I talked to some of the neighbors about how they had to go through permitting issues and what they were required to do. The pre-construction stormwater that everybody in the township that I talked to who has done a fairly large scale project, it still doesn't compare to what we are disturbed over there, had to have a stormwater retention pond for the building structure for a 6-inch rain till their stormwater ponds were established. So I guess I'm asking, where is the construction stormwater? Like, it's running across the road. It was coming through the underneath our township road last night. You could have used a canoe. It comes straight through the waterway that was put there by NRCS that is no longer there. Comes into that big stormwater there in front of Aldi Road. And that stormwater retention pond will empty when it stops running. Now it's running still yet. Chris Hartman has always told me they're allowed to prolong the flow of water, but they cannot speed up the flow of water. They have to speed up the flow. It's a disaster. Going forward, we understand this might work, it may not work. We don't know yet. But what are we going to do from now till August of next year? I've lost my wheat crop. I've lost a bunch of soybean crop. I'm losing topsoil. Whatever they decide to do over there on their property, it's their decision. We as a family can agree or don't agree. It doesn't matter. But when you start putting their intentions of doing their property onto mine, we now have a problem. Stormwater is a problem. Nobody in this township has been able to do what they have done. I understand DEP won't get back to you. Now we have to go further. I've talked to Christian Leinbach. I have now talked to Mr. Maloney. I have tried to do homework just like you guys have been trying to do. But are we okay? Is this how it's going to be until it's done? Is my question to you guys. Is this the norm for the next 6, 8, 10 months? Or are we still thinking we can fix something that doesn't drown us out? Because it's not right. Our residents who have done projects before weren't allowed to do this.
Is it worse than before they started coming?
Yeah.
No, it isn't.
Yes, it is.
No, it isn't.
The flow of
No,
water.
it isn't.
The flow of water.
It's no different than it was from day one.
No, it's not.
That water did not speed up.
Think about
You're
that.
getting out of control.
Think about
This
this.
is fucking nuts. It has not changed.
Yes, it has.
No, all that water comes from Fiddler. Not a drop of it comes off the property.
But I'm not saying that. I'm saying it's coming.
Why are they supposed to control what comes off of somebody else's property through the site?
So then why do I have to take it?
You always did. Everybody down the line always did. Nothing's
Not that
changed.
fast.
Huh? It doesn't come from our property.
Think about
It comes from upstream.
Some of it does speed. But they,
All of it comes from upstream. I have pictures of it today. Coming through the railroad like it always did.
There is a bit that comes from underneath the railroad, but a lot of it now comes from the impervious that they created, compacting the ground.
yes,
And you have a point there.
I'm not saying,
And that's, when
What-
you get 100 acres of runoff like that, that's gonna have
That's
an
my
impact on the
point.
flow. Common
I'm
sense
not
tells you
saying-
Do you see the flow
I'm not
comes from
saying-
DECA over to you? It's the same if not worse, and it's always been that way.
I'm not denying that.
Through
You
the
took
merge
100
over to you.
they took 100 acres and they rolled it with a roller.
Yeah, that's what
not
the
how
money
you
soils is for.
Do you normally?
You gotta let the project finish. It
But what do we
doesn't
do
say
till
we're done.
then?
Huh?
What do we do till then?
Wait till spring till they amend soils like you guys requested.
But that's
You
not.
didn't want to do it now because the grass would not grow.
So these guys who put chicken houses up, they didn't run their storm water as they were building onto another person's property. I understand what you're saying.
95% of what's coming through there is coming from up from Baylor like it always did.
That's not true.
Yes, it is true.
Oh, I got.
I had so many freaking pictures of every storm that flew through there before and after.
It was bad before.
I
And
understand that.
It's worse now. I don't know
And I
that
think
there's.
we are kind of,
We
I
took
mean,
out the
we are
stormwater.
in a limbo here that, I mean, really the solar company kind of, from the day we approved the plans, we said, if you want to change the amended soils, you have to go through the process. And it was, I mean, we put it in the minutes just to make sure it was there. If you take that step to change that, and from day one, they wanted to change that. They just waited till about the middle of the year to say, let's change this. Did not take into consideration that DEP had to approve it. We had to look at it again. By the time it got going, yeah, we're kind of caught in this limbo that
But that's
it's,
not
do
my
we
fault.
put in the amended soils now or we wait? And we wanted to wait because we knew it was going to be a nightmare on that end. But the only thing we could
Came
do
down to
between
bad
now and
timing.
then
Yeah, I just ran out of time.
is look to DEP, walk the site and say, this has got to get as stable as we can. And that's why we've had DEP repeatedly out there to walk through it. Got it to where we
Between now and
can.
then, there's not much we can do.
There really isn't.
Floyd Kurtz himself admitted that even with the grass that is there, a little bit foxtail and what H&K put down Pinnacle, he even admitted himself that there was less coming through there. That's why you didn't want to do the amended soils. It totally makes sense. 95% of what flew there through there again was coming from upstream. It didn't come off the property.
I will say that I think we did avoid having the issues with Floyd's property from waiting, because he's even said it's been fine since. He had one issue, maybe two kind of little calls where he made just to document and say, hey, this happened. But within the day, it cleared up on one of them. But he said it's been better than it was because he was consistently having that issue, and it's just cleared up since they stopped the digging right now. But I'm not saying that isn't coming back in the spring,
It just
but it's
seems,
not there right
it
now.
just seems like the wall's awful low in the front there, that there's not enough retention for, but.
Yeah, I was over there yesterday after I took a good look at it.
The only
There is runoff coming off of that property. There's no
It comes
doubt
right
about
under the bridge. It comes right. I'm not saying
Yeah,
that it's.
from
I'm not saying you're right. Some of it
Oh,
is
yeah.
coming.
It's
from
a
it.
huge amount. It always was.
I'm not denying
But Steve,
that.
it's the
I'm
cumulative
not denying
effect
that.
of what comes down underneath the railroad bridge. And it was clear as day yesterday. You could see that it was running down between the solar panels. There were streams of water coming down. That soil is very compacted. There's not a whole lot of anything going in
So
there.
why wasn't there a retention pond, construction wise, on that side to hold the water till everything was established? Why did we let it run and
Are
cause
you
more
referring
runoff?
to south of the railroad
Yes.
bridge?
Why wasn't there a retention pond put over there to hold that? You're eroding that, not just this project, their project. I'm saying everything that's coming down through there is a township right-of-way road.
And we're-
That can't be legal. You can't have mud running down through there. I don't care if it comes from further up the hill or wherever. That is a township accessible road that we pay taxes for to use. There has to be something, whether a pipe should have been put underneath, put under the road. However, but you can't run muddy water across public roads.
You're talking about the railroad bridge now?
So my question was, why wasn't there a retention pond put on that side during construction to hold it? When these other people are required to do that through construction.
So,
That's-
I mean, really it ties into, I mean, to go back to where we are now until they hit the spring, the other part of it is while it's under construction, the design that's there with the ponds that are just south of the Fleetwood Lions Road there. DEP township ordinances say that it's holding it back more than it was.
Look,
That's,
I have a
I'm
picture.
just telling you, that's what it
rained
is.
3/10 of an inch at the beginning. I took a picture of my rain gauge and I took a picture of the water coming across at 3/10 of an inch. Now, I'm not saying it all came from there, okay? But I'm saying the water was running at 3/10 of an inch. It never ran across my fields at 3/10 of an inch.
The ground's been saturated. It rained the last 2 weeks, and yeah, another 2 3/4 inches on top of what we had the last 2 weeks. The ground was already saturated. It has no place to go.
I think,
Of course it's gonna do that
I'm
after
not
3
gonna
tenths.
disagree with you that it's not been a good project. And I don't think that we had known that they weren't gonna have the soils amended as they went. I was under the understanding as they're building, they were gonna amend these soils and that wasn't the case. They rolled down all that ground
They rolled it.
and here we are. I can't answer why they didn't or why they did. I think if we turn back the clock, we'd do a lot of things differently, knowing what we have to deal with and the amount of time we spent. I don't know where we go from here, if we can hold it back till they get it done in the next month or two. I'm not sure what we can do from that, but I am not disagreeing with you. It does not hold back water like I thought it would. Our whole goal was, there was a problem there, and it came on top of the hill, it didn't come off that
Right.
way. There was a problem, so our whole goal was to fix it. And up to this point, it's not been good. So that's why they didn't put a pond over there. All that stuff's above my understanding of engineering and water retention. I thought they had plenty of, that was our main goal.
But it'll be empty. It won't be holding any water back. It'll run empty because the pipe is so low. And I'm not saying, I can't sit here and tell you guys are wrong, that's not gonna work when it's finished. It may. But what do we do till we get there?
I don't have an answer for that.
I mean, everything they have in place for the condition of the site during the construction is in per the plan. And as much as I would like to see a little bit more of the site stabilized, we've had the conservation district, because they have that NPDS permit in place to enforce it. They continue to say it's acceptable the way it is. And I will say the ponds, if there's no grass growing in them, they're completely covered in the mulch. They have to come out and redo that if we have a wash and it takes it away. They do have one pond closest to Floyd's property that it's just not functioning the way it's supposed to, and now or in the final design. But it's not necessarily hurting anything with the way it's operating technically. It just needs to be fixed before this project is closed out. But everything they've done is in place the way it's supposed to be on the plans. And we continually ask and try to see if DEP has any violations with it. And they continually just have items to get addressed, they address them, and then they say it's fine. Yeah, I agree that the fact that it didn't get finished before the winter, we just never knew we'd be sitting in a position where this was the case. And I think that's just poorly.
Established by now.
Yeah,
I mean,
that's poorly
You
managed.
could have asked for a better October, November to be in those ponds working. You know, grass wasn't mowed, weeds are high in there. They could have mowed all that stuff and cleaned it all up.
But
You know, the
again,
more you mow grass, the thicker it gets, the faster it gets, to hold more back. It wasn't mowed.
the timing of when they requested the change the amended soils, prevented them from doing it.
But that's not the residents' fault. That's not the neighbor's
No,
fault.
I understand that, but it's,
So you're telling me I should just expect that this is how it's gonna be the norm for the next X amount of months, and it's blowing right through that. They had NRCS put a waterway in there with grass, and the Hefners mowed it nice, and they kept it clean. That is gone. So we went up to that farm, and we ripped 80 acres or 90 acres, whatever it was. We put it back with pans, and we rolled it with a roller. You guys are farmers, come on, you know what's gonna happen.
I'm not saying there's not an issue, I just don't know what the fix is.
Yeah, well, if there is a fix, till spring.
So in other words, we just keep getting flooded out.
I mean, we can bring the concern, it's,
It's not my responsibility to take their water.
again, on, per the plans, it's in the way it's supposed to be, and if it's taking longer for them to finish, the construction that's out there today is per the plan. And it would have been nice to see that not last as long as it is, but right now, there's nothing to say that they're in violation of it.
Does the
That's
retention
the
pond fill up and
unfortunate
then
part.
it comes over the top?
Just goes right through, don't back up hardly at all.
So
They've only
per,
had ever one storm where I think it got over that berm. That was
so
probably
per
the
the,
worst one that happened.
Per the plan, that was miscalculated because it wasn't designed big enough to hold what.
Well, I mean,
I
I
just know when I built my chicken houses, we had to contain all my construction site, no brown water running off of my property. I had to make this stormwater big enough to do that. And then, so 13 years ago now, in 2010, we built that. So I had to contain everything on my property. I wasn't allowed to have anything run down over my property. And I think the conservation and DEP, they did an overkill on stormwater as well. My thought was, and to this day, I haven't seen water run over my spillway yet. You know, I'm just saying, when I drive past that project, I'm like, boy, I think they didn't maybe take in consideration of water coming from the Bittlers and from the mountain and stuff. They should have thought about that
Well, they did.
when they did the plan and made,
9 acres.
I look at,
so the actual, the plan that got designed for this actually took the standard NPDS permit requirements, and the ordinance that got created for that property actually, I won't say doubled, but it took those requirements and said, you now have to retain even more water onto the site, infiltrate even
That was
more
a big
water.
deal when we talked about it initially.
So
And
it's
it might
actually-
work when it's done, it might work, but how do we get to that?
Yeah, and to get to that point, and we had the conservation district sitting here, and Dean basically said, it's not that brown water can't be discharged from the property, you're going to see that.
let me make one thing clear, there's
That
no
was the
brown
words
water
that
going
came out
across
of this.
right now. It's all clear. But what's there is holding, runoff from coming off.
I mean, he said it right in the meeting when he was here, that
Right,
you will have the dirty water coming off, but he said it may be sediment laden, but it's clean in their perspective, and it's gonna happen during construction.
And they're allowed to do that per their words until it's done.
Yeah,
Yeah, I guess technically they're still in the construction phase.
So in other words, this will be the norm for the next.
Unfortunately, I think,
I would like
I don't
to
know.
say no, but I don't have an answer.
yeah, I don't either.
So what do you want me to do in the spring? Plant rice? I mean, what do you want me to do?
Well, you gotta have to, when they get the amended soils in, that'll greatly reduce what's coming off of that property.
I understand that, and
And that
I'm
should-
hoping to believe that.
And that's gonna take place as early in spring as we allow that.
What's gonna have to get reestablished to hold anything.
It will.
But does anybody know how they're gonna rip this and put the amended soils in now that they put the panels up?
Oh,
So
yeah.
they
Yeah,
did
they got a 3-shank ripper, they got sand there, the whole 9 yards, they were ready to go this fall.
when you were saying they should have done it, they actually did a corner in the back, well, the southeast corner of the property. They did probably 3 panels worth and an open area. And they went through the process, and that was part of our permitting process to say, this is what you have to do, you need to show us. So the conservation district had the same question, so they went through. To be honest with you, that area looks great. It's seeded, it took, and it's nice down there. But that was when they just wanted to show that it could be completed, and then DEP continued with their review.
And that would be the best part of the farm. Would you not agree? That's the nicest soil down there,
Above the railroad there?
down there in the bottom.
No, they did this above the railroad, the top field, right in that corner, between us and the Biddlers. Is where they tried that experiment corner there.
Yeah,
On the
South
bottom
of
or
the
the top?
Top,
Up top.
top, not way up top.
Yeah.
But the top,
which one?
up
I'm
against
going
the,
south,
Be the south side.
below the railroad.
So they had a 3-tooth ripper. They went between the panels and they did it 24 inches deep.
Yeah.
And what did they have on it? A woofer tractor? It's not very wide, is it?
yeah, it had the tires in,
2-wheel drive?
2-wheel drive.
They were able to go through and and basically offset it by roughly 6 inches when they went through
Must have been a red one.
to do tap.
It's only 3-shank, it don't take that much horsepower.
Yeah, it really is the ripper is not that big, but they were able to offset it when they went through.
Well, I have a 5-tooth on a 280 horsepower tractor and I can bring it to its knees. So when you, and I don't go 24 inches deep.
I don't think it's down 24 inches.
Okay, I'm just asking.
I think there's gonna be
If they go
some,
20, 16 to 20, I'm sure that'll do it. But I guess the requirement was.
well, it definitely was easy ripping for them.
Yeah.
And they're gonna run into some issues with that, and that's gonna be their hardship doing it between the panels, but that's on them, and they have to do the whole area that they're supposed to.
Isn't it getting tilled then as well?
So it's 20-inch minimum rip, then they come back, drop sand on it for at least 1 inch deep, and then they do an 8-inch rototill across everything on
And they
top.
blended in.
And then, so in the ponds, they're not doing the tilling. That's one area that they're just coming in, but everything gets the 8-inch rototill with the amended soils. The ripping is just in the certain areas, which is, I think, 60 acres.
Yeah, that'll make a huge difference. Once they get it done.
I agree, but we gotta get there.
I agree.
Correct. Hopefully the end result now will be better than it was before. That was our goal. What we do till now, till then, especially in the winter time, I don't know that there's much we can.
There's gonna be runoff. There is.
And disappointing help from the DEP at the Conservation District. They just make suggestions over here. That's the best we can tell you. It's disappointing all the way around at an education for the next time. All right.
The next one's the Grande property. Still trying to find a local, I talked to some bigger companies as far as the open space, and I'm hopeful with 2 suggestions we had recently that'll come to, but as far as the street lighting goes, I went through there today just to verify. They still have 2 fixtures that have to be placed on existing poles. It was an agreement they had with MedEd that was gonna, I think it was MedEd, correct?
Yeah.
They were gonna utilize those instead of putting in the new post out along Rhino Drive. The street light agreement, as the discussion I had with Chris, is that this really should take place pretty much at the same time the street dedication occurs. Otherwise, you're looking at them trying to prescribe an easement, probably the same as the right of way, but it's almost a step you don't need. And
Well, right now, we can't, the agreement would have us paying the utilities and maintenance, and they're not our streetlights yet. So we gotta own the streetlights, so the streetlights have to be dedicated, but I don't think the streetlights should be dedicated until the street is dedicated. So I think the proper sequence here would be to decide if we're ready to accept the streets, and if we do, then we accept the streets and the lights. And when you're ready to accept the streets and lights, then we enter into an agreement with First Energy for the maintenance of the lights.
We had done the walkthrough on the base, I think it was over a year ago now. But they put the top coat on, that's been completed. Street lights in the property are all in with the exception of those two, so they still have that step to take. They've done all the easements for the right of way, the easements, there's the access road, so there's that easement as well, and the sewer descriptions. We'll need to get the legal descriptions caught up for that, but the question is, at this point, they're past the dedication for liquid fuel, so if you were to accept the streets, you could get that money. If we proceeded with talking about accepting the streets and the street lights now, they're aware that, well, we would be asking for a cost associated with the maintenance for that site.
Yeah, you won't,
And-
at this point, get any liquid fuels
No.
revenue until 2025.
Yeah.
So if that's a concern to the board, then we should condition any acceptance of the streets on getting some money from Grundy to compensate for the absence of any liquid fuels money for that street.
So they're looking to move forward, they're not pushing extremely hard, they just every now and then remind, hey, we'd like to go through with this process and start with the streets and the street lights, but they still have a little work on their end. But that's kind of the position we're at. I think it's a matter of if they get the street lights in, do we want to start going down the road of accepting the streets?
The streetlights that are already installed, are they illuminated?
No, nothing has it. I mean,
Not turned on.
the development is pretty dark as it is, and I think there was actually a complaint that came in from a resident. I don't know if it was a formal complaint or just an email.
It was an email.
Yeah, saying that they noticed that it's dark and listed off some issues they see with having it that dark. And I went through before coming here tonight too, and it is, I mean, Rhino Drive specifically is pretty dark.
So why don't they have lights on?
They haven't finished the two at the front end. And I guess, I mean, we can have them turn those on at their cost and start the process that way. Could we?
We can ask them to do that. I think they don't want to pay for the electricity, but I mean, there's no reason why they couldn't be turned on now if they're connected.
Yeah. I think they're connected minus the two they still have to put in, as I understand it.
Are they metered?
I believe there is some formula that First Energy uses to generate an invoice. You know, township's gonna end up paying for the electricity, and then we'll pass that through to the residents of that development through a streetlight tax.
Right. I was just wondering how they that number in today's world.
I don't think it's specifically metered, I think it's more of a calculation.
So I think, Chris, correct me if I'm wrong, we need to see if they're really pushing to try to get the board to move forward with the streets and the street lights. Keep in mind the open space isn't complete, which we've had the open talks with them, and I think that's in motion. I don't know if that's going to get taken care of immediately here, but
So what do we have to do? Dedicate the streets and the lights and what else?
And enter into an agreement with First Energy.
and by doing so, the township would take over the streets, and it would start. They have an 18-month maintenance period that they are still responsible for. A walkthrough at the end of that to make sure anything that may need to be fixed, say a curb, inlet, or anything along the way.
Besides that, what else is there to do?
They're really at the point that they,
Have to deal with the open space.
yeah, And I was gonna say, they still have to clean up the other side of Rhino Drive. Technically, if they did that, that's their last step for the NPDS permit, and they could talk about closing that out. They're holding off on that to figure out where the open space goes, because they did not plan on owning it in the end, so. Yeah, that's about it. We've gone through a lot of the steps. It was just put on hold because they haven't pursued it, but they're starting to ask the questions now. So I guess we would
Well, it could
look to
be,
them to talk about the streetlights, maybe in the interim here to get those energized. It sounds like that's maybe a request we have.
it could be that Grande is getting the same emails that Jen's getting from residents asking about the lights being illuminated, and Grande would prefer that we pick up the tab instead of Grande. But I think it's up to the board. If you want, Grande can be asked to turn the lights on and pay for it until we're ready to accept the streets, or if you're ready to accept the streets and as.
So I don't think we accept
gear
the
up.
streets or the lights or anything until we have this all worked out with the open space. We can push that along pretty quickly.
Okay.
This is what
Make
we
it a
want.
package.
Make it a package.
Okay.
Because once we don't have the streets and the lights, then we. won't have the whole-
Then we wouldn't have to request road maintenance money, liquid fuels money, because we wouldn't be responsible for it.
Yeah, I mean, the normal cycle for that is, you have to have your dedication documents recorded by the beginning of September. And then you notify PennDOT, and then you get on the list for the calendar year that starts after September. So that's why, really the deadline to get,
Fast.
the deadline for 2024 is passed. The deadline for 2025 is September 1st, more or less, of 2024.
The biggest concern is right now Grande is responsible for the plowing and taking care of the
Yeah.
roadways. So once you get through the winter season, then you're not really, it doesn't matter when you do it at that point in time, but it's the winter maintenance is the biggest concern. So, so what I'm hearing is we'll push them on, let's get everything on your end wrapped up and done so we can, one, get the streetlights going, but also let's wrap up this open space discussion so we can realize that we don't really want to accept those
That
until that's
whole
done.
like of June 1st, to try and get the ducks in line, because that gives us a little time to fudge, to make certain that we're done by September 1st.
No later than that.
Yeah, but that's when we start in June.
Well, right, but when they get their stuff done, and we can come up with an agreement for this open space.
Yeah, I think their last step is trying to figure out those two streetlights. And I think they're holding off on closing the permit because of the open space. Short of that, they really have everything wrapped up. Do we want to push for the streetlights to get on that?
That would make.
If they weren't getting those in, yeah, okay. All right. Okay. Yeah, there wasn't gonna be any action on accepting the streets or anything that tonight. We still have some work, so. All right, and other than that, we did get a time extension for the Sheets property. If you recall, they were going to basically tear down and redo that building. They have a land development plan in, but it's just been being pushed a little bit. They're actively going after it, but they had some traffic issues and whatnot. But they provided a time extension for February 28, 2024 for the board to accept.
I'll make a motion to accept it.
All in favor?
Aye.
Yeah, that's it. And I will get in touch with Ron and make sure that Heelstone, Ron, our office, have a meeting to make sure we take care of whatever.
Jeff, if ever let one of us know that we could be.
Good.
All right, something that we skipped over when we went here, Chris, the police agreement, are we in final? Is that the final, did you look at the final?
Yeah, I mean, I don't have any technical comments. I mean, I think it's matter of whether you're satisfied with the price. And we did prepare the approval resolution that wraps around that agreement. Is that something that you and the borough have come to terms on?
Yep. We're good with it.
All right.
So the contract's good to approve. I'll make a motion that we approve it.
I'll second.
All in favor?
I got a question. How much is it for the police? For each person?
For what?
For each person, taxpayer, how much?
Oh, I can't tell you what it is per taxpayer. I can give you the whole amount.
Yeah, how much for a year?
$663,663,611.
No, that was last year's. This year's is on the second page, the 727. Yeah.
Oh, excuse me. I was wrong. It went up.
So it's up to 700,000.
727.
727, 897.
I'm in the wrong business.
Yeah,
I think we all are.
law enforcement costs money.
Yeah.
It really does. But where would you be without it? Be the Wild West.
I guess one.
All right, so you have approved now the police
Yep.
contract. Did you approve the EDU charge?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay.
Oh, the joint comprehensive plan. Is that something we need your input on?
Well, it's a good idea to update that about every 10 years.
And it's due. So you recommend that, or most municipalities go together?
Well, the advantage of doing joint comp plans is that you can allocate undesirable land uses among the participating municipalities in a joint comp plan. If you agree to not change your zoning without notifying the other participants in the joint comp plan. So essentially, it's like joint zoning, but it's not joint zoning, meaning you continue to have your own separate zoning ordinance, but with a joint comp plan, where you have a future land use map as part of that joint comp plan, you allocate land uses among the participating municipalities. So, for example, you don't have a lot of land zoned for additional residential development. If Maiden Creek does, then you are protecting your ordinance from a challenge to the validity of your ordinance that you're not taking your fair share of additional residential development. So that's where a joint comp plan with a place like Maiden Creek can benefit this township because it protects your ag zoning by allocating the residential uses to Maiden Creek. The same thing is true with other land uses like, I'm not sure what a good example is for Fleetwood, but they don't have a lot of space to have some types of uses that might be more appropriate here, like a quarry, for example, or some more industrial type use that might not fit in the borough. So anyway, I think it's mutually beneficial to all three municipalities if you can agree upon what that future land use map should look like. But it does take time and effort to work together. So that's a commitment of resources for you, especially for your volunteers. I don't know if any of you would do it or planning commission members would do it, but somebody's going to need to work through that process through a series of meetings with the municipalities. And there's also a cost. There's a consultant who usually works with these groups that are doing a joint comp plan update, and you're going to be expected to bear some of that cost. Now, the plus side of that is that you're not paying all the costs, you're only paying part of the cost.
Right.
The downside of that is maybe it takes an extra couple of meetings because you're working with two other municipalities. Anyway, I guess bottom line is I would recommend that you do participate in the joint comp plan process. I think it's beneficial to all the municipalities.
Do we know where Max, Tony, and Freeze are?
They are both for it.
I'm okay with it. The cost is $12,000 to the township, but half that's covered with the grant, most likely.
It does come out of 2 budget cycles and it's billed quarterly. And I did find out that we can budget this for the following year if we wanted to, or we can actually use the American Rescue Plan funds to actually pay for something like this as well, if we chose to.
No, it takes a little more power.
Yeah. It probably would be helpful to have
Communication.
communications and all on the same page, and will help with some of this stuff.
Well, especially municipalities that are in the same school district, I think we share the consequences of development, different types of development in terms of tax assessment, and so it makes sense for you to work together for planning purposes.
I'll make a motion that we do this. All in favor? You're gonna let it go to.
Yes. Do we want to have that come out of the funds, or do you want to have it?
Yeah, let's have it.
Okay.
Did you
Is that
talk,
okay? It's American Rescue Funds.
did you talk about the PAM's delinquent cost schedule?
Approve that.
Okay. That is fee schedule that already exists is in an ordinance. If you are agreeable to those new charges, we have to amend the ordinance for those fees. However, not having anticipated that we're going to change the rates going forward, I would recommend that when we amend that ordinance, you say that from here on out, rates can be changed by resolution from time to time. I can write the ordinance to read that way, and that'll avoid the cost after this amendment that we have to do now from doing it in the future. We can just.
I would definitely do that. That makes sense. That's gonna change.
So is the board agreeable to me preparing the ordinance that will implement the
Yes.
changes?
Yeah, I'll make a motion.
You know, second.
All in favor? Aye.
I don't know if you want to touch on it. Chris is now here if you want to talk about the wolf dog situation.
Oh, boy. Let's get better gas mileage.
So, one of the residents on Lake Road once went to the game commission to have a permit to have a hybrid wolf. But they need permission for the township. We're not sure what liability comes with that.
I try to say no, but I don't know how to do it. This is, your investigation is a residential situation,
Yes.
and they claim it's a pet. Well,
I guess,
and you've reviewed our ordinance, and have you found anything that would enable the township under the current ordinance to say this is not?
we don't have anything about, you know, that
That's
type
what I
of animal.
Well, anyway, I think if the letter is narrowly written, just to say that it doesn't violate the zoning ordinance that's currently in effect. I mean, I wouldn't say we endorse this, but just to say it doesn't violate our current zoning ordinance. I don't see that we're liable for the consequences of this. However, I think this has brought to light what arguably is a weakness in our current ordinance, that we don't have something like this. If the board agrees with me that this is not something we want to have occur again, we don't want to have this happen again.
Yeah.
I mean, this is a situation where sometimes you get caught off guard the first time it happens, but you don't want to be caught off guard the second time. So I think we're stuck with this one. I don't think there will be liability, but I don't think it's good for the community. And I would recommend that we investigate new regulations to say that, unless you're, I don't know, like, what we could do is to say, you gotta have either, be someone who does this professionally, that you're not an amateur person, and you have some qualifications for who can be the owner of one of these animals. Hypothetically, we could say, they have to be a trained animal expert or something. I don't know. I'm just sort of talking off the top of my head now, but I'm thinking that ordinary people shouldn't be able to just buy one of these things and have them at home. And so I think we ought to look at what regulations we could enact that would avoid this from happening again. But if you don't think it's an issue, I won't, go down that path. But I personally don't think it's a good idea.
Chris, we had talked about maybe having them sign a release of some sort.
Yeah, we can ask them to do that. I don't know that we have any compelling power to do that, but I would start by saying, we're willing to give you a letter, but we want a release, and see if they'll sign it. But, my concern is that we may be protecting ourselves, but we're not protecting the neighbors. And that's really where I think the concern should be, is with the neighbors.
Should we do something, at least inspect the existing fence?
Yeah, I was thinking you want to inspect the perimeter.
Yeah, again, I think even though we don't have any regulations that are on point, it would be prudent to do some, make some effort to investigate what they have in order to contain this animal.
It doesn't matter if you have an 8-foot high fence, if you leave it open, a gate open or something.
Right.
Jeff.
I don't know how you stop that.
Yeah, this is kind of something like they had up on Mine Road with the snakes. We had that fire up there, and they had all kinds of venomous snakes that nobody knew about. Did they have to go and report that to somebody that had, because he didn't have them, he raised them and sold them. And I don't think nobody ever knew about it. He has to report that stuff now, correct?
Is that what the game commission
Well, that
issued?
is not a township issue, but
I don't know anything about that.
But it's an issue for residents and possibly rescuers, EMS, that are going in there to assist.
Well, what I'm saying is that we don't presently have a regulation on that subject. So the guy, if he has these animals now, doesn't have to report anything to the township. However, I think that's what you're raising about emergency services is one of the things that we ought to take into consideration if the township wants to look at new regulations to make sure that, emergency service providers that serve the community are aware of what's there, so they can take that into account if they ever have to respond to a call. That seems like a real good idea.
I think you should at least look into it. I don't know, like someone could get an exotic pet or
I think that's what
lions
they
and
got.
tigers and stuff.
I think that's what they got to go through, but you got to make sure that they don't, like, they're getting this pet from a place that takes them in and raises them. Maybe they have 6, 7 of them there, so this place doesn't turn into that.
Right.
If it's maybe one, okay, but if it.
Well, I think even under our current ordinance, which again, it doesn't regulate this, if somebody is doing it as a business, then it's clearly subject to the commercial regulations that we have in the existing ordinance. I think where people can get away with this is if it's just for, if it's just a pet. But, having said that, I'm thinking about your snake situation. And maybe that's something Jeff could even look at is, if the guy is breeding them and selling them, does that take it to a level beyond a residential use already? And maybe there's something that you could look at, Jeff, to think about whether there's anything that we could
Well, here's a question.
get a handle on.
I clean out a lot of properties and I run into rattlesnakes all the time. Local here, we got rattlesnakes here. So when you pick up stuff, they're under it. And what are you gonna do? They bite you, attack, they're gonna attack.
Well,
This is people intentionally.
yeah, we're not talking about
Wildlife.
wildlife. Yeah,
Yeah.
we're talking about people who intentionally keep
Yeah.
this stuff and breed it,
Understandable.
or, keep it.
This man.
In my lifetime, I have had 2 friends that have had wolf dog hybrids. Both of these animals I implicitly trusted with my young daughter. The important thing to note with the wolf dogs is the percentage of content of wolf, genetically speaking, which is often done through genetic testing. But they are no more prone to violent behaviors than your family dog. But I have to give these residents credit because they're trying to do things on the level. Most of these dogs just look like huskies, you know.
Right.
I do have a friend who runs the Lakota Wolf Preserve in Columbia, New Jersey. I'm sure she'd be happy to answer any questions that you may have for her. Her animals are predominantly purebloods, but they run the sanctuary there in Columbia, New Jersey. Be happy to give you contact information if you have questions.
Well, it would be very helpful to have more information, because I think, we're handicapped by not knowing a lot about this. I mean, based on your knowledge, if somebody describes it as a wolf dog hybrid, I mean, that could be anything from 1% wolf to 99% wolf. I mean, and how do we know how much wolf these people are keeping?
Right, that is mostly done through genetic testing. I believe I am familiar with the rescue that they spoke of, that I have seen it come up on Facebook and took an interest in because I do have a love of wolves. I do photography, so I will go to the place in Columbia, New Jersey to photograph them, and have learned a lot about them, right down to being able to identify each one of them. But in that particular setting, the owners only will go in the cages with them, and they do behave with the humans like dogs do. In terms of, they get excited, they get sad, they're happy to see you, they come looking for ear scratches. There's double chain link fencing there, because that's what the state of New Jersey mandated. But again, I'm sure she would be happy to answer any questions that you have.
In this case, is it the game commission, are they issuing the permit?
If we,
They will, once
So,
we provide them with a letter.
So it's the.
Do they have any requirements to say that it has to be a certain percentage? Is there any,
they must have some governance.
you would think there'd be something that they could make sure it is actually what they say it is.
Well, that would be another set of questions for us to ask, is, what investigation has the game commission done? What do they know? What is their process? We don't,
I'm sure they don't want that getting out in the wild either if it's not what it say.
And it could be part of the approval that we may not have ordinances against it, but the game commission is issuing the permit.
yeah. So I think if the board wants us to dig into this more, I think we should do that. And I think that we want to do some more research before you talk to them again about this. Did they express any timeline that they were seeking to get this?
She just says it's their application with the game commission to let them have this animal is all waiting on us giving them the letter. We're kind of on hold with everything.
Okay. Does the board want me to work with Jeff and we get some more information on this?
Yeah.
And also look at potential new regulations for the township? Do you want us to do both those things?
I think that'd be a good idea.
Yeah. That looks like it'd be the last time something like this comes up.
And we don't need the tiger opinion either.
There are other ordinances out there, I know of municipalities that have prohibited animals. The bulk of the list sounds ridiculous, but I think they catch the poisonous snakes and some other things that you hear, the alligators, crocodiles that people have in the house. But I mean, I think that's probably, there are some out there to start with. I don't know the bulk of what gets into them. You might have seen some of them more than I have, but there are starting points for some of that.
All right.
May I offer a suggestion as well? I found the comments from, you were very helpful. Red Creek Wildlife Sanctuary is an amazing resource for wildlife. Anytime I'm not a resident of Richmond, I'm a resident of Fleetwood, but I have a different issue. Whenever I find wildlife hiking, injured hawks, owls, whatever, you take them out to Red Creek Wildlife Sanctuary, 183 North. They are, part of their mission is education with humans interacting with wildlife. Just throwing it out there, they might be a resource to call upon to ask their opinion. I don't know.
Did you say Red Creek?
Red Creek Wildlife Rescue, REDCREEK, Red Creek. They're the ones that had the massive electrical fire, and they're rebuilding now. They're just about ready to reopen. But I'm surprised that the person interested in wanting the letter isn't here to plead their case. I love the suggestions to look at what New Jersey is doing. I agree this isn't going to be a one-off. I also agree that you're trying to protect the neighbors as well as the wolf. I mean, there's a lot at stake. And if it's not
It's
done,
the fairly unknown that scares us.
yeah, absolutely. And if it's not done correctly
We don't know what
the
we're
first
gonna
time, it's an interesting question. If I were a neighbor, I would certainly want to know and become more educated about it. So I'm an animal lover, so I would be open-minded to it all, but I'd want to know.
And I did find the email for that person that I spoke of. It is jim@lakotawolf.com, LAKOTA wolf.com.
They've probably seen it all. They've probably encountered.
They do have in their inventories currently, they do have several, what they later learned were hybrid wolf dogs. When they got them, they were led to believe that they were purebloods. Now, what constitutes the wolf dog versus you could have the family pet could have a very tiny percentage in there. You never know. There is a percentage range. I do not know those percentage numbers offhand as to what constitutes a wolf dog and what doesn't. I'm sure Jim would be able to provide that.
Lakota always displayed at the New Jersey State Fair. I'm from Northwest New Jersey, and Lakota always had a big exhibit, and they're amazingly, they will answer any question you have, and they end up with the animals that people take who shouldn't have them. They end up, that's where the rescues come from. They end up with these animals that get in a bad situation and have to be surrendered because the human involved made bad decisions.
If I'm correct in the agency where they may be getting this animal from, I believe part of their policy is the animal must be sterilized.
That's a start.
All right, thank you. Two questions I wasn't expecting tonight. Solicitor's report.
Okay.
Let's go right to number 2. Let's do the burning one. We have people here about that. I don't want to stay for
Well,
this spectacular, exciting meeting.
as you know, we've discussed a couple of times an amendment to the existing burning regulations that would prohibit certain types of burning in the R1 low density residential district and R2 medium density residential zoning district. And those prohibited activities would be burning waste and burning refuse. I mean, those are, I think, primarily the things that we're concerned about. Also, yard waste would not be burned within those zoning districts. No agricultural plastic. I mean, so there are some things here that I wouldn't expect people to be doing anyway in the R1 or R2 districts. But the issues that have occurred with regard to burning of waste in residential areas would be prohibited by this amendment. And the amendment is based on the zoning district classification of the properties. And that is based on the current zoning map, but the way the ordinance is regulated, if we change the zoning map, the regulation will move to follow any of those changes in the zoning map. This has been advertised and is ready for enactment. Do you have any questions about it?
Public, Mr. Hummel?
Can you define yard waste? Is that dog crap? What is yard waste?
Sticks, leaves.
Leaves and sticks.
Not grass.
Okay, I mean, and the reason I'm here is, I have 11 and a half acres, and my mother aside of me has another acre and a half, and we burn the waste, we burn the sticks off of the ash borer trees. And we usually burn them in conjunction with groups that come. I attend Fleetwood Bible Church, and we also have bonfires where we burn wood at Fleetwood Bible to have doggy roasts. So, I mean, those two, so you're saying that I would now be prohibited?
That, I don't think that's excluded. Isn't there a bonfire and
Yeah,
We-
so,
fire pit?
Yeah, you're allowed to do that.
yeah, the fire pits are fine. So, I mean, it's,
More like food waste.
Yeah, we don't burn any plastic tires. We burn the tops of the ash borers. We all know are dying faster than we can cut them.
So the reason for this ordinance is we have people burning trash in the middle of a development, plastics, and it's unfortunate that, but we can't address it any other way than, this is garbage, this is rubbish. Instead of having a trash man, they're burning in their yard with houses right next to each other. And it's something that we thought we would address that way.
Is there a way we could do it differently, like a minimum percentage from the property line, 100 feet, 150 feet? I mean, that would eliminate a lot of the close property. As mine would be a rare exception. My where we burn, there's no house within 300 or 400 feet. It's in the meadow.
well, are you concerned about protecting your right to burn the dead ash?
Yes.
That's not an issue. So if you're concerned about burning trash and refuse.
We don't burn trash.
Okay, well then, I don't think you have anything to worry about. I mean, I would look to Jeff, but the intention here, I mean, if you are behaving reasonably, I mean, if you have a genuine, like a social bonfire, and this ash is the fuel that you use to have your social bonfire, that's not a problem. What we're concerned about is, things that might be a larger scale.
People that don't have trash collection, they're out burning their garbage. That's what this is aimed at.
With this, so again, my property borders, I live in Fleetwood Borough, but Richmond Township is my backyard. I'm 401 Friendship Drive in Fleetwood, right off Richmond Street. So 36 years living there. The two houses up on the hill, the greenhouses, routinely burn trash. They always have, 36 years. Would this impact them? Would they be prohibited from burning trash?
Where's Friendship Drive?
Willow Creek Development, we're just a
Yes,
block
it would
down from the high
it would
school,
100%.
even though I'm Fleetwood.
Your Fleetwood wouldn't affect us. I mean,
So-
we can't control what you do, but the
Well,
residents,
Fleetwood, we can't.
well, in Richmond Township, in that area, that's an R1, it would
Okay.
definitely affect them.
35 years ago, after we lived there for a year, the owner at that time, they rented, it's usually a rented property. They were burning all their, they had a construction company, they were burning carpets and plastics. And my second son had asthma, and I had thick, black, oily smoke that I could write my name on my windows. And at that time, I had tried coming to the Richmond Borough meetings, and I was told unequivocally, there will never be a burn on Banning in Richmond, and I could just leave. Honestly, that was the reception. So this is heartening to me, that there's a little bit of an open-mindedness that we all have to live together now. I've often wondered, I know what the Richmond burn ordinance is, or was, I guess it's gonna change, and it's not supposed to be after dark. And I can't leave my windows open after dark. You can stop actively burning at 8 o'clock on a summer night, but it's gonna smolder until midnight. So it's an interesting question. I'm very glad to hear it's being addressed by the township. It does impact people, even though those houses sit a little ways away. It very much impacts our lifestyle where we've chosen to live. And we chose to live there. We love living where we live. But I appreciate the open-mindedness to maybe putting a few brakes on it.
Anybody else have any questions?
Yeah, I got a question. So what happens when we leave the kids out burning until 11 o'clock at night? Wood in a pile. Do we have to out it? I used to burn till 2 o'clock in the morning wood.
You burn what?
Wood. So
What
you
is the burning?
Is it in a pit?
No, it's in a square box with holes in it.
Well, that's like a ceremonial thing.
Yeah,
that's
I think that's still covered right now.
That's 4x4.
Under the burning ordinance.
Yeah.
And I think you're still okay with that.
Okay.
We're looking for garbage.
No, I don't burn garbage. I'm a trash business. I take it to landfill.
Yes.
I too am a Fleetwood resident, and my property butts up to the property that started all of this. Dog waste, baby diapers, styrofoam, I can show you all sorts of things. I thought 6 years that we've been imprisoned and our house was bad, but my hat's off to you for your patience because
There was no listening ear to pursue it.
yeah,
I mean, the board has changed over the decades.
right. You can't open windows, you can't enjoy your outdoor spaces. It's horrible, styrofoam going right in, which is a carcinogen, can't be burned.
Are there state laws against this?
That was how I actually got the one homeowner to stop burning all the carpets that they would rip out of homes, is I had to go to I had to get state help. Because it was a violation of pollution, air control.
We tried to stop this by all the means that we've had currently with zoning and trying to get on the property, and
Police were there.
police was there. This is our last step, I guess. We try and do it in increment. We're not here, I think this board we do not like to make more rules or laws than we have to. But unfortunately, you have instances like this in 2023 where people are burning diapers and vinyl and plastic and just have no common sense when you're in the development. Now this is what we're forced to do. And it doesn't affect the ag community where there's larger properties. It's the R1 district, which is on Willow, which is by Willow Crest, across from the Willow Crest Elementary, and it's out at the end of 222 when you go into it's Kutztown Road, the beginning of Kutztown Road from the bypass and up Crystal Cave to the bypass. Those are all the R1 districts that it affects. And there's only one farm in there that I know that it affects, and it's Sam.
So what will the ramifications be for failure to abide by this?
I think we have more teeth in the law that we can send the police and say, this is garbage, this is what it is, now you're getting fined.
And garbage is so different than ash trees.
Clearly.
It's-
I don't think anybody's got a problem with
The
that.
smell is different, the consistency of the smoke is different. You know
Plastic
when
is
they're
horrible.
putting plastics and diapers and
And
styrofoam.
carpets.
I had some fabulous infrared footage of nighttime fires where the hot embers are going 30 feet up.
I have to pick up out of the yard before mowing all the pieces that didn't burn through, the large carbonated pieces of paper, and I have a pot in the garage, I just pick it all up from the yard before I mow.
I got a receipt, an entire receipt that way, through unburned items, and a simple search on Google using that name revealed a chronic history of scofflaw behavior.
Yeah.
And
I mean, everybody's watching pennies but we all have to pay for sanitation services as part of living in a community.
I'm begging you guys to set us free.
Does anybody else have any concerns? And for the people watching in public, I mean, I've got a lot of ag calls. I'm against this ban burning. It's R1
And R2.
and R2, which is residential. And those are the districts that is. It's the end from Kutztown Road and Crystal Cave, south of the bypass. It doesn't even go far off of Kutztown Road. It's off of Willow. That end, that's right against town, which I was surprised you have such a sizable property up there in the R1. And Willowcrest, Walnut Town too. Walnut Town and Willowcrest. So just so we're clear.
And you said that end of Fleetwood as well. Off
For what?
Richmond, North Richmond. It's Richmond and Friendship Drive,
Richmond.
a block down from the high school. It's where the creek
No,
comes.
that's.
Oh, I think that's Fleetwood Borough.
It's where the creek that floods.
Yeah, I don't know if it's there.
That's development.
I thought you were over at Willow's Crest.
That's the development right behind the pool construction.
No, Willow Creek, I'm Willow Creek.
That's overfunded.
I sit just on the side of it. Friendship Drive is the road I'm on. I'm by the Friendship Drive.
He's up near the.
I think all of Friendship Drive is all borough.
It is,
Yeah.
it is, it's borough. But my backyard butts up against
There's a home.
Richmond. Richmond comes right up to the back of my yard.
Giorgio's area, I think.
No, Friendship. You're by the high school.
Just a block down.
Oh.
On the north side.
Oh, where's the other development?
And there's two little properties and the EV farm back there.
That's farmland there.
Is Virginville tied into it?
That I don't know.
I think they call it Martin Lane that goes up to the houses.
Yeah, that's still.
That's a ag area.
So I keep my windows closed. If it were brush, but it's garbage, so, but that's not what I'm doing tonight, that was just.
Garbage has to stop.
It does.
That's disappointing. But it was for the R1. I thought you were at Willow Crest.
Yeah, it's not a new problem.
There has to be some state laws against burning petroleum-based products, and
It's
the
mostly
state
when
police
you
have to
wanna
have
sit
some
on the
teeth.
deck at night and it's dark in the summer and it's wafting down. There's an interesting flow of air through that. It comes down the creek and it flows right over the neighborhood. It's an
And it's
interesting
proven
geological issue area.
What they're burning. That's our challenge here.
It's very difficult to enforce.
Yeah, there are state regulations, but I don't expect DEP to get involved unless there is something that is big enough, like if it's a
It was
business
big enough when
activity.
they did
So
before.
if there's a
yeah.
business activity involved with this type of burning, then DEP may get involved. But for a typical residential person burning garbage in their backyard, I don't expect DEP to show up for that.
Well, we're gonna take one step at a time here. Maybe we can.
Does Richmond ever send out letters to residents just reminding them that it should cease by dusk? That it should be no longer actively smoldering by dusk? Or is it, I don't know if anybody even looks into what it is.
We don't really send any notes. We put on the website, but
Your neighborhood should send a letter.
I'm here representing a few neighbors, so
I'm sorry for the information.
it's fine. That wasn't even why I'm here this evening. So it's just very interesting and I hope it helps this homeowner.
Yeah, well, that's our goal. Do you have any other questions?
I have another question.
Go ahead.
The bridge down there on Tivoli Drive. what's
The what?
shape on it? The bridge.
Oh, we're still working on that.
Waiting for the gas company.
No,
Well-
the gas company said if you put us in your construction project, we'll be happy to lower it. They just
Yeah,
kind of
yes,
wanted,
they're on board.
Okay.
now
So
we're
we
gonna,
know the company that's gonna be doing it, because they used my land before, that used it for a website. Put a trailer on it, put a bulldozer, a lot of good stuff, for that construction. Tivoli Drive.
Yeah, we still gotta work on some issues because they're gonna have to close
Gary
the,
Kraft's the one that came down to my yard and asked.
we're gonna have to close the road. We're looking at other access. That's what
Well, they could use Tivoli Drive, I didn't charge them, so. They wanna use that for a work site, they can, I didn't charge them.
Yeah,
Throw it out there.
Yeah, I mean, we're doing the design, working on the permitting part of stuff right now. Trying to, again, we want to do it right, but at the same time, if we can do a pre-cat pipe of sorts that's out there, and that's kind of what we're looking at. Can we still do that and save, it is a big cost savings, so. We're going through the paperwork part of that right now.
I checked the water about 10:30 last night, it was flowing through pretty good. Before that, it was like little pool.
All right. So I make a motion that we adopt this ordinance.
Second.
All in favor?
Thank you. All right, back to item 1, monthly discussion of sewer. The first account that's on the report on page 1, we got a judgment, we've transferred that judgment to the proprietary, so the question is, do you want to go to what is the potential next step, which is to execute on that? Well, that means we get the sheriff to come out and look and see if there's any personal property in the name of the defendant that we could have a personal property sale. And, this has been something which is an expensive process, but sometimes people respond to it and show up with money after the sheriff levies on their personal property. I don't know if this is one that you want to go down that path on or not. I mean, if you don't execute, then I think we've pretty well exhausted our steps that we could do to push the collection process.
This one's been on a long time.
Yeah. But you'd be executing against the $2,500.
Yeah, right, whatever, yeah, that's the amount that's now
So there's 2 here that we will probably do.
yeah, that's, you're right, there are 2 where I'm asking that same question.
554 Park Road too.
You guys-
Correct.
As much as you do that, I don't know what else we can do.
When people take a default judgment, it seems like they're just ignoring us. I mean, each of these steps is for the purpose of trying to create a reaction where they come and talk to us and, enter into an agreement to catch up over time. And, this one and the one at 554 Park both seem to be situations where they're just ignoring us.
That's 2 years worth of sewer.
Yeah.
I
think we've given them ample
I suggest
opportunity.
you execute on both these judgments.
I agree.
The 2 for.
Okay, we'll start the process, and again, what I hope they'll do is stand up and ask to work with us.
What happens with 391 Park Road now that it?
Okay, this one, the reason I have some notes on that is that based on our review of the PAM's report, they are still showing the prior owner rather than the bank that foreclosed. So the follow-up on that one, I would recommend would be just to get PAM's to change the address for the property, because it's possible PAM's is not sending bills to the current owner. And, we've had that situation where PAM's is not aware that there's been a change in ownership.
Sounds good.
So, I don't know, is that something you could handle, Jim?
Yeah, I actually reached out to them today. I'm just waiting on an email response from them.
Okay. Then on the third page, 11 Hewitt, on that one, we had a lien, Jen sent a follow-up letter. So the next step would be to file the civil complaint with the district justice. I mean, that's been our process when we get to this point. Do you want us to do that?
Yes. Yeah. This is like the fourth go round with this.
It is a frequent flyer.
So those are the only ones that I'm recommending any specific action on tonight. Do you have any questions about any other accounts? Thank you. Next thing on the list is the possibility of changing the retirement age of the pension, and we've talked about this a couple of months, and the board has rolled it over a couple of times. Do you have any decision on that?
I'm okay with it.
Yeah, I was good with it.
Okay, so if you are in agreement, I will advertise it for enactment. You could do that at your regular meeting in January.
Sounds good.
Okay. On those Walnut Town condemnations, I finally got the court order I was looking for on both accounts. So the money may have already been paid into court. I have to check with my office to see, but we're either finished or very close to finishing with both of those outstanding items. That's all that we have on the agenda. Just double check my notes. There was another sewer account that was Southview Road. Did you get anything back?
No.
Yeah, okay.
No visit, no telephone call. I know that he originally said that he wanted to start a payment plan, and that's why Michelle had gotten everything together, but I have not seen him or seen, I saw the letter from the email, but nothing has been brought to the office.
Is that 229?
Yes.
Okay. What I'd like to do, if the board agrees, is to send a follow-up letter. You know, we're not quite a month out from having sent the payment plan letter, and nothing has happened, so I would recommend that we follow up on that one.
Yep, that's perfect sense.
I think that's it. Thank you.
The roadmaster's report. Anything to report, Robbie?
I don't think so, no.
Y'all ready to go for the first snowfall?
Unfortunately, yes.
Everything flowing up there in Virginville, all settled?
Yeah, so, you all are aware we had our first sewer issue in Virginville with the sewer system. And it seems like it was faulty installation is what they found. Everything seems to be working good, and no issues or complaints from the resident.
Okay. All right, Secretary Treasurer's report.
Okay, in the general funds, we have check numbers 11226 to 11262, including EFTs for $117,898.21.
I'll make a motion to pay.
Second. All in favor? Aye.
State fund, we had no checks. Light Fund, check number 2166 for $746.57.
I'll make a motion with that.
All in favor? Aye.
Sewer Fund, check numbers 3151 to 3160, including EFTs for $31,965.89.
I'll make a motion with that.
Second.
All in favor? Aye.
Walnut Town Fire Escrow, check number 2171 for $741.
I'll make a motion with that.
Second. All in favor? Aye.
Virginville Fire Escrow, check number 2171 for $741.
I'll make a motion with that.
Second. All in favor? Aye.
The only other thing I wanted to discuss is the twice a month township building cleaning that we've been having. Linda Locke has been doing it pretty much temporarily until we found another source. Diane over at Greenwich Township had sent me contact information for a Brandon and Tanya Lambert. They do business cleaning during the day and the night. They are insured. She had her first cleaning 2 weeks ago and gave great reviews about it. They can clean at the same price as Linda does it, and there's 2 people that come in. She said it would take about 45 minutes to an hour. They bring all their supplies, vacuum cleaner, everything, and can clean it top to bottom. And they've been here, they took a look at the building, and they are willing to do it for $700. If you were willing to approve
Yep.
that.
I'll make a motion.
Okay,
I'll second. All in favor? Aye.
that is all I have.
I have nothing else. Anything from the public?
Is this the time where if we have a question?
Yeah, go ahead.
I didn't sign in on any sheet.
Go ahead.
Again, I'm Bridie Farmer. I am a Fleetwood Borough resident, but my backyard abuts Richmond Township, so Richmond's ordinances very much impact me. I'm here to just try and understand what's changed at the EB farm. I grew up on a farm. I wanted to live in a rural area. I'm very accepting of all the issues that go with living in a rural area, but I'm having a lot of trouble adjusting to whatever's changed on the farm. It started in the summer, but had the windows closed with the AC on a lot of the days so I could block it out. It continued through the fall, and again, I kind of just ignored it, thinking it's harvesting. You know the sound the harvesters make when they're going through the areas. It's usually all night. You get very used to it. It's a rhythmic sound that we all like, actually. And my neighbor, 2 neighbors actually, in casual conversation said, "Do you know what the noise is?" So then I started paying closer attention to it. Now, it was quiet last night, because I'm coming to the meeting tonight probably, but it goes all night and all day, and there's no break in it. And so again, the contour of that land is fascinating because it all flows right down across our yards. If you go north of the farm up towards the school and then the next farm, it almost disappears. It carries right down along the creek and into the backyards. It's a drone sound, and what's been added, as far as I can tell, I ride my bike on that road, is a large cylindrical like silo of some kind. It must be a motor that's on, I don't know. I'm here to try and understand what's changed on the farm. The noise is disruptive. It comes right through the windows. It's weird because this farm does not sit in my backyard. There's quite a distance between my backyard and the farm. It is impacting sleep tremendously. You can keep your windows closed. I actually keep my windows closed and put a fan on to drown it out. I like my windows open, especially in the winter. I have never slept with my windows closed my whole life, and now I have my windows closed. So I'm just trying to understand. I'm going to be moving from Fleetwood. I need to list my house probably within the next year or 2. I'm going to get asked questions. So I'm curious what's changed on the farm, or what I don't know. It didn't come with the chicken farm, with the egg farm. It's new. It's been since the summer.
If I had to guess, I'd say it was probably fans in a drawing system for grain.
And that would explain the large cylindrical silo type. It's not a high silo. It's not even higher than their home, I don't think. It's more broad than it is tall, but there is a large motor unit on the top of it.
It was like a battery spec or something.
Yeah.
More noise than it
It's just
should.
loud.
It's just loud.
Those fans are, especially the older ones, are really loud, really loud. And that's probably what you're hearing. And they have to run them for a period of time to dry the grain that's inside the fan.
So it was quiet last night because the grain is dry?
Perhaps. I can't say for
Yeah.
sure, but
Speculate.
I'm thinking that's probably what you're hearing.
I even recorded it a couple times because it's insane. It begins to make you crazy. I don't know how they live with it on their farm. It's not a noise that's, even my friend says, you try to, you get used to noises in your community and you begin to not hear them anymore. I don't even hear the trains. Don't even hear them. But this one, for some reason, drills into your brain. It's like neurological warfare. It's awful. It's awful. It's
Sounds like a fan to
impacting.
me.
Hmm?
Sounds like a fan to me.
Yeah. Is there anything I can do about it? I certainly don't want to impact their livelihood as farmers.
Well-
I grew up on a farm. I'm very much an advocate of farming, but this is not a good neighbor.
Sometimes a simple baffle can reduce that greatly. Yeah, where you can just put a baffle in front of it, 10 feet in front of it, in your direction, and they can cut it down by 10, 15%. It's not gonna go away.
And there's no codes that they have to comply with for noise.
I'm sure there would be if it reached a certain decibel point, but from what you're describing, you're not even close. But I know Mr. Eady, I can find out. I can
And it's,
figure that out.
I'm not complaining. I'm
Right.
curious. And I'm getting old and I'm
Yeah.
getting bitchy. I'm just like,
No, you're not.
one more thing, just one more thing. And now that I have to, I do want to sell the property, I'm already gonna have to explain that no matter how badly that creek floods, it never comes in my backyard, even though I have lakefront property every time. I have a lot of things I have to explain. That's not one I wanted to add to the list.
If you leave your contact information with Jen, I'll find out what it is.
Thank you, I would appreciate that. And I am disseminating it to the Powers household and the Bukaki household. They're my two immediate neighbors.
Probably can't correct it, but I can tell you what the source is.
Thank you.
Okay.
Now that the ordinance has been amended, when does that take effect? And whom do I call with violations?
5 days.
Police, unless it's during the day.
Police unless it's during the day.
Well, if it's during the day, if we have somebody in the area.
Oh. Okay, I was like, what?
But we're not.
We didn't put a timeline on this. But police, unless it's during the day, you can call craft code.
Yeah.
5 days. So, all right, any other comments? All right, I make a motion to adjourn.
I'll second.
All in favor?
Yeah, I think it's not the seller. It's the
I
I just wanted to say thank you for bringing us.
Keep her eye out, maybe for spring.